You are not an object, you're not a subject. God created you in his image to be an agent with him, co-agent with God. So for me, machismo is this, in simple words, in a few words, is objectifying or subjecting women, making them objects or subjects, rather than making them agents, co-agents with God for the flourishing. There is a purpose in female, right? Flourishing of cultures and nations, individuals too, of course, starting with individuals. So machismo reduces women to less than equally created in God's image.
Okay, welcome to DNA Live. Thanks for joining us today. Here we talk about culture and life and relationships, all at the level of worldview, both at the prevailing worldview of our culture and then through the lens of what we call the biblical worldview. Why worldview? We simply say because worldview matters. We also say ideas have consequences. It's the worldview level ideas that we hold to and live by that shape our lives, our culture, how we relate to one another, how we work, how we view justice, how we do family, our communities, and ultimately our nation. So it's very, very important. The question is our worldview based in reality and truth? If so, we have a chance of living well, because truth is the path to flourishing. Why the biblical worldview? My colleague Daryl Miller likes to say that there is only one worldview that truly comports with or aligns with reality, and that's the biblical worldview. The biblical worldview is a reality about God, about creation, ourselves, and the human condition that we see unfolded in the Bible. All this to say, we want to talk today about at the worldview level. So our topic is confronting the worldview idea of machismo and confronting this with God's grand design for men. To talk about this, we've invited three guys from three continents, actually four continents, Latin America, Europe, North America, and Asia, specifically South Asia. So I'd like to welcome Samuel Felix from Brazil and Jitu Dongardive, I'll get that right someday, from India and now living in Spain, and Nelson Montero from Brazil, now living in Canada. So hi guys.
Hello.
Welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
Let's start with my very brief introduction. Was super brief because I'd like you to introduce yourselves. Just share with us a bit about your lives, where you live, married, children, what you currently do. Take it away. Jitu, you want to begin?
Yeah, that's true. Hi, I'm Jitu Jitendra Dongardev from India. I am married to Vanessa from Spain, and I live in Spain, in Madrid. We have two sons, Yaron and Joshua. One is 9 and then 6. Currently, we are working with Youth with a Mission in Madrid, and we lead a ministry called Transformation Team, which is again the same DNA as DNA, Disciple Nation Alliance. We want to see because we believe the societies would be transformed by biblical Christian worldview. That's our value, to see the gospel transforming the nations, not only spiritual, but the society is being transformed, as Darrell teaches. I'm with YWAM for many years now. Born and raised in India. I was working in India with street children, community development, and then as a social worker with international NGO for some time. Between that and then I rejoined YWAM. I'm
curious, how old were you when you moved to Spain from India?
I came to 2005, so that means I was 35 years old.
Okay,
so you can
all right. So that's fine. It gives me a sense of, did you leave India at the age of 5 or at the age of 35? It's a big difference. All right.
I came to study here. So
okay. Yeah. Nelson, how about you?
Good. Thank you for inviting us to be here, Dwight. Yeah, I'm right now. I'm based in Canada. I'm in Victoria, British Columbia. My wife, Lisa, is from Victoria, actually. We met in Victoria. We got married in 1992. It's going to be 30 years next year. We have 3 kids. One is 20, I'm a little bit ahead of Jitu and Samuel. One is 24, and she's completing her studies in Budapest at the end of the year, architecture. Then Luke is 22 and completing his studies here in Victoria with us, completing his studies in civil engineering. And Danny, 15, is with us. He was in Spain for the design project. And I work with it's a Christian denominational organization. I'm a global worker with the Pentecostal Assemblies of Canada, and doing work in Brazil and Canada right now. And the work is mainly, we say that our mission is to help equip the church to be an effective agent of transformation in the lives of individuals, communities, and society. So that's what we work mostly with: poor communities, transformation in poor communities, and young professionals, young adults, equipping them for transformation out of their vocation. So that's pretty much the 2 groups that we work with now.
All right. Thank you, Nelson. And Felix.
Hi, thank you so much for inviting me. And yeah, I'm Samuel Felix. I'm 35 years old. I'm married to Carolina. She's 30 now, actually 31. She just turned 31. And we have 2 boys, and she's pregnant of a little girl who is coming by the end of this year. And the first time I met Daryl was in YWAM back in the day when I worked as a full-time YWAMer here in Brazil. I joined YWAM in 2007, actually. And I spent a few years as a full-time worker, working with Mercy Ministry, street children, and poor communities. That's where I met the Disciple Nations book. And since then, I fall in love with this content because the great challenge was to apply to my own worldview and my mindset. And since then, I've been working on myself, to align my vision to the biblical perspective. And it's a big lifelong challenge. And here in Brazil right now, I lived in New Zealand for a while, and I came back to Brazil in 2018. And since then, I've been working with my company. We do animation and motion graphic design. And I try to apply biblical worldview and perspective to my daily work. And yeah, that's what I've been doing.
All right. Yeah, it's your company. You started it and you own it. So what's the name of it? Do you have a name?
Yeah, we do have a name. We haven't launched as a company yet, and still under my name as a professional, but it's called Zeal.
Zeal. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Great.
It's quite deep, the meaning.
Yeah. Well, listen, the way I got to, I didn't meet you, Nelson or Samuel, but we did have a meeting, the 3 of us, and we converged in, November 2019 now, in Malaga, Spain, which is the southern part of Spain. We went to a little village called Alora there and did the filming of the Grand Design, which, by the way, after all of this time, is going to release on Monday now. So it will be live and launched, and you'll get an email if you're part of the DNA constituency or you're watching this. It's our website and then /Grand Design. So excited about that. But my question is this: why did you go to Malaga to participate in that filming? Now, Felix, we paid your way. I know that, but you had to work the whole time to do the filming. But you were also motivated to actually help, and super motivated, in fact, because you went beyond the call. But why'd you guys? Why Malaga? Why'd you show up there?
Nelson, you want to go?
Go ahead, Jitu.
All right. Yeah, for me, as Samuel is a mercy ministry worker, community development, I was always the same thing. But I remember when I first heard Daro in Thailand in 1999, I went for some consultation there, and that was the first time I heard the word worldview or paradigm shift. And I had to, since then, like I was impacted by Daro's teaching. And I remember after when I went to the university to do my master's of social work, something has changed in me. Everybody thought I was very intelligent, but no, the worldview concept just came in and I could start seeing the reality different way and analyze it differently. So I've been always, Daro's great fan, and then worked, and then we invited Daro here in Madrid, and he had conference, and then Ana Santos and Alfonso Cherene always helped me in that developing that DNA of DNA in the area of biblical Christian worldview. And yeah, I always say that Daro is my long distance guru through his books and his talks and all, been discipled. So when the opportunity came that Daro was coming here for filming of the series, and so yeah, Alfonso and Ana Santos, they wrote me, and then you sent me an invitation and said, and I came up there with my team, a couple of people from my team, and it was just a great treat. So I won't miss if Daro is so near in Spain and he's doing something. I won't miss that.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you, Nelson. How about you?
Yeah, I had met Darrow in the Disciple Nations Alliance for a while when the book Nurturing the Nations was released. And that book was really the beginnings of Spain for me, why I went to Spain. Actually, I went, and Lisa went, my wife, and Danny went too, actually, our son. With that book, actually that book was so impacting for us that we immediately translated into Portuguese to be released in Brazil. And Luke, my son, 17 years old at the time, helped me translate. He translated half of the book, and so he was exposed to this. So that book had a great impact in us. And then we did a gathering with Darrow in Brazil, in Brasilia, the capital actually, for young adults for a week in a retreat place. And in one of the days of the retreat, we did a few, but in the first one, and the other ones on. But I remember the first one when Darrow shared on a Thursday about the book. Each day we're taking one of his books to share and discuss. When he shared Nurturing the Nations on Thursday that year of that retreat with young adults, the room, there was 20 young adults, 10 women, 10 men, pretty much. And the room that day, you could see the brokenness of both women, young women and young men in that room when they heard this message. How broken our society is, how broken are the messages that we hear, how broken we are being formed to be away from that biblical worldview that you're talking about, away from that design that you're talking about there. So it was really impacting that day for me and I had contact with the book. The book had been released already in Portuguese. So the Nurturing the Nation was really the beginnings of this for us, and to see how God is restoring women and men to the position that elevating them to the position that he designed them to be for the flourishing of individuals and society. So that's, and then the Grand Design Project, which was an expansion of Nurturing the Nations, pretty much came, and we were so glad to be part of that, to be invited to be part of that in Spain.
Samuel, how about you?
Yeah, I remember the first contact I had with this term. The title of the book was through Ana Santos. She worked here in João Pessoa for a while, and she always talked about it, and that was my first contact. And then I remember my wife read the book before me, and she'll always sharing a little bit here and there. And I remember by that time, it blew her mind because it also confronted her perspective about womanhood for, herself and the way she was raised. And then we went to Australia to do a leadership training in YWAM Townsville. And Daryl had a week teaching. And I particularly remember that moment that really impacted my life was I saw, I don't remember how many people, but we had several students from Papua New Guinea. And most of them were from, a scattered village from Papua New Guinea. And I remember one of the sessions about the dignity of women, we had this moment of brokenness and repentance. And I remember several men asking for forgiveness because they were literally confronted with the biblical perspective for men and women. And that was a very powerful moment. And then since then, I have been following. I had the opportunity to go to Panama to meet you guys again, and I was invited to be more on the technical side of this training, which was recording, but there is no, dichotomy on that, because I was shooting, recording, but I was also learning. So everything at the same time. And for me, it was a great pleasure and honor to learn from Daryl. I remember one of the sessions that really impacted my life was about the design, the Trinity pattern for men and women. And I was really impacted by that because I don't know, we even if you're raised on a Christian church, it's very easy for us to be conformed with the local culture. And then we lose the track of what it is, what does it mean to be a godly man, godly woman. And yeah.
All right, thanks. Hang on to that. I want you to unpack that a little later in this conversation on the Trinity. So,
Okay.
The title of the show today is Machismo. Now, that's a Spanish word. What is it in Brazilian or Portuguese?
It's the same word.
Same word. Okay. But it's a Spanish word, but it's a universal concept. I mean, the idea that men are superior to women and there's particular pride and masculinity and everything else is subservient or something. But why don't you talk about machismo in your culture? Where did you see it? What did it mean? What's your experience with machismo in your context?
Can I start?
Yeah, you can start, and then India, and then I don't know whether you're going to do Nelson. I don't know whether you're going to do Canada or. But anyway, take it away. See what's your experience.
Talking about machismo, I was actually thinking about this subject because I was like, oh, this is not something that I, read often, to be honest.
Right.
But it's just part of who we are here in South America. And I was wondering, what should I say? What should I talk about? And then I remember my life. And talking about machismo, it's all about my life, my childhood, because I come from very, very broken family. And we have this contrast between my mom and my dad because I grew up, I learned that all the fault from my family being broken was my mom's, because she cheated my father. That's what I learned since I was very little. And I saw all of, I saw violence. I saw, mistreated. My mom was mistreated. I saw my dad cheating my mom, and they all were Christian. And I was raised in that context, and I always absorbed the idea of my father blaming my mom for our family being broken and separated. But then my father left my mom. He didn't take care of us after that. I was about 12. He didn't supply for, our basic needs, me and my two brothers. So my mom had to work, and she didn't make much money. So we had we had needs, like we were hungry, we didn't have money to buy food. But at the same time, my father was pretty well, as he always was, But then he had other women, and he had other children, and he did the same thing. He didn't take care. He didn't supply for their need as well. And then I realized that, whoa, there's another side here. There's something. And then I saw the same scenario in other families, like my friends when I was a child. It's very often quite common here in Brazil. You see like a single mom with kids, and then she has to work. And as me, they go to the street to do nothing because they have no, they don't have, how can I say, support for the family. I'm a miracle, I would say, because I was taught Christian values and principles on the church, because I started going to a church. And then I had great men in my life. Nelson is one of them. I met him when I was already married, but he was one of the men that really taught me how to be a man. And well, just to summarize, what I want to say is that machismo in my life is something that I always run. I always try to run off, because it became part of me, and I had to learn how to think biblically, and how to treat my wife and see other women as God's grand design. And it's been a challenge, and I think it will always be. Yeah.
Good. Thank you. Wow. I knew part of your story, but that's great. So
Yeah.
Jitu.
Oh, for me, born and raised in India, and my family is my generation is a third generation Christian, or 2.5, because my grandparents, they became Christian in the village illiterate. My parents were working in a town where there was no other Christian family, so I was surrounded by the worldview of dominant worldview of India, which is based on Hinduism. But on the other side, just 500 meters from my house, there was a mosque. So I grew up in that culture, where had very little knowledge about what is biblical Christian, what is Christianity is all about. Because whatever Christianity is, that first 13 years of my life, we were in a town, it was a big town, where we had no other Christian family or no church. So my parents would teach us what is Christianity. Basically, that was 10 Commandments. I didn't know what is Catholic or Protestant, things like that. But then, when you grow up culture, like in India, the culture is based on the religion. So machismo, that this word I came to know when I moved to Europe, probably. But the culture around me was all suppression of women, basically. And of course, my mother, she was a nurse. She would, her co-workers, the nurses would tell her that your husband is a good man. And she said, why? Because he helps you in the house. When you're cooking, he is helping you. Or when you're washing, he brings the water, because there was no running water in the house. We had to carry the bucket. So, and for the nurses, even her bosses, the matrons, they were like, you are a blessed, a lucky woman. That was the kind of thing. And for me, I grew up in that culture where I saw my father as a bit different. In a different sense, he was loving, caring, and helping my mother. Whereas outside was completely different. Many of my neighbors or my friends' mothers, they won't be working, or they would be in the house. And then as I grew up, I realized that, yeah, the man in our culture is important. He has to be respected. He has to be valued. Woman has to be inside in the house. She's a weaker part of the society. We have to always protect her when as a brother or a husband. So, and then, yeah, of course, we saw the domestic violence around as working with the poor communities, even in my town as growing up. So it was very common. Man beating a woman was not a big deal. It was woman's fault always. No, so I grew up in that culture where, before knowing what really Christianity is, true Christianity, like following Jesus, personal relationship with Jesus Christ. For me, before that, Christianity was like, you're born in Christian family and then you are Christian. That's it. You go to the church if there is a possibility. Otherwise, you don't do this. You don't do things. You don't. It's not like what you do as a Christian. You don't. It's basically the Christianity was, you shouldn't do that. But culturally, I was being discipled by the dominant culture around me, my thinking. So I would be with my friends before really knowing what Christianity is, what is to follow Christ. So I would kind of treat badly because of the cultural thing. Look at the girls or women in our culture, like, okay, they are not equal and man is superior. So it was in me without knowing. I had that thing in me that so yeah, you see and then when I started learning about the biblical Christian worldview, especially after Daro's teaching and then Vishal Mangalwadi's, and then I realized that, wow, biblical Christianity is much more different than what is around. And in the backdrop of my dominant culture in India, when I started looking at the Christianity, I realized this is truth. This is not only truth for me to take so that I can go to heaven, because all around me in India is like, the aim of life is to go to free from the world or nirvana or whatever. But it's not, Christianity is not only that, but it's like, it makes me a good person that creates the good society here on earth and well-being. And I said that this is true. And so machismo for me was just part of me. Part of what I got confronted when I started knowing what true Christianity is. When we started moving to the church, being a youth leader, being a part of the council of the church, I had the little change in me as I would treat, or I would see around how people are treating a woman. And so it was not different than the dominant culture around me, what was happening in the church, because the discipleship was not happening. We were Christian of not doing something, and our place is in heaven, but how we treat our mothers and sisters was same as the culture around me.
Wow. Yeah, you talk about being discipled by your culture up to the age of 13. You hadn't even experienced Christianity at all. And I'm thinking, I remember Arturo Cuba, our friend in Bolivia, always says, by the time you're 11, your worldview's set. It's gone. You're done. That's how you're going to see the world unless something happens. You have it set. This is your lens. So, Nelson, what's your experience? And Tell us, machismo, why don't you define that again for us as you understand it too? So.
Yeah, I hear Samuel and I hear Jitu, and I appreciate that, Samuel. That thank you for sharing your very private experience with us. And I was
now publicly.
Sorry,
sorry. Now publicly.
Private public expression.
Yeah, but those stories,
Oh, it's your life,
have
man.
power. They have power to speak, right? When you see these stories in the life of someone, not only you're talking about in general. So I appreciate that. And of course, I grew up in Brazil, and I left Brazil when I was 23 years old to come to Canada. And then since then, my life has been mostly in Canada, half and half in Canada and Brazil, actually. I married to a North American. Lisa is Canadian. My kids are born here. Daniel was born in Brazil, but two of them here and one in Brazil. So I'm this third culture person, right? That I belong in both. Sometimes I feel I don't belong anywhere. But as you said, Dwight, the worldview is powerful, and I was formed in that Latin American worldview, Brazilian worldview, and machismo. Even the word actually is connected with our Latin American culture. Even the term, the word comes from there actually. So I came to think of machismo as the reducing women to less than equally created in God's image. I always say to the poor communities where we work with, to the kids, the children actually, you are not an object, you're not a subject. God created you in his image to be an agent with him, co-agent with God. So for me, machismo is this, in simple words, in a few words, is objectifying or subjecting women, making them objects or subjects, rather than making them agents, co-agents with God for the flourishing. There is a purpose in female, right? Flourishing of cultures and nations, individuals too, of course, starting with individuals. So machismo reduces women to less than equally created in God's image. And as Samuel and Jitu described, the main process, mainly that happens mainly by enculturation, that process of growing up in a culture and being formatted by the good and the bad in that culture. And it's interesting, machismo is something that, as Samuel described actually, it's something that has been done for so long historically. It's there, the roots are there historically, that you don't even question, or worse than that, actually, you don't even realize that it is a question, and an important one, for the flourishing of individuals and society. So then the other side that Jitu and Samuel brought, then you meet the kingdom culture, right? Then you meet, there's an overall culture of the kingdom reality as God established, the kingdom culture, that then starts to open your eyes to actually start to see this is a question, and to see how women are treated, how by men, how machismo reduces, as there says, crushes women. And of course, these days, that's speaking from my Latin American, Brazilian culture. These days, I'm in North America. I spend most of my time here these days. And here is another, it's another, the other side of the coin. It's radical feminism, which if one crushes women, the other one, as Daryl says, causes disappearance of women, right? The female disappears, and all the richness of female disappears with that in radical feminism. So that's where I am these days in North America. It's a very established idea. Radical feminism is just a given. So I'm exposed to both these sides at the same time.
Yeah, that's a huge point made in the Grand Design training by Daryl. This idea of there's two ways to deal with this lie that one person is superior to another, or another is inferior to another, male and female, and which is inferior. And the responses are, one, he says sexism, which is machismo, men are superior, we dominate. And the other is feminism, which is no, women are equal and they're equal to men. So in a sense, they're like men. And to be equal with man is to be a man. And somehow it gets really confusing. But, Samuel, I'm going to go back because I want to dive into some of the answers, biblical concepts that we've been wrestling with in the Grand Design, and you guys are a part. And Samuel, you mentioned something that impacted you, and you said the Trinity. What in the world does that have to do with this topic?
Well,
What do you mean? And you don't get a 45-minute sermon. You got to summarize this.
yeah, let's try, because it's also my second language. So let me think. Well,
These other guys
I
will
think-
help you. Trust me.
Okay. I think it really impacted my life because when we first met Jesus, I mean, I say we because it's very common to happen to all of us. We tend to think God as a, this heavily old guy father, and I sort of have to go through this transform of thinking what really God is, and it's his community. And in this community, one serves the other. And between them, they're one, but they are three persons. All of them have distinctive roles, and they serve one another. And when it's applied to, and when I learned that we are made in God's image, it's not just that because God sees and then we see, because the Bible says God's hand, we have hands, not that kind of image only, but that we are made to reflect the structure of respect of different roles, being equal and serving one another as a family. And that point really impacted my life when I learned that, because as I said, we inherited this wrong vision about what it is to be a man, what it is to be a woman. And then when I was confronted to the Trinity part and on how to be a family, the dynamic, and that dynamic being applied to my family, it really changed the game on how I think. And I have a pastor friend of mine. He said a while ago, "Do you ever realize that we have to be something that we were never taught how to be on a daily basis? Do you realize that we're giving something that we actually don't have, never had?" So the challenge for us is much bigger, because it's only by the grace and the truth of God and the gospel that we are able to pass it on and break this, cycle in our lives as a families. And I feel very challenged and very blessed to see. I'm not able to apply it 100% yet, but I have the perfect model to follow. I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, interesting concept. Jitu or Nelson, you want to add to that from that lesson?
I actually was thinking about what Samuel said, Dwight. And a couple weeks ago, there was another live DNA live with Lisa and Naomi, yes. And I was listening to that live, and Lisa said something about, and Scott asked her to elaborate about us being humans first, male, female comes after that, and then we're individuals. That made me think a lot, and what Samuel did just made me remember that, actually, because it is true in a sense that God creates us as human beings, right? We are humans created in his image. We are humans. Within that, if we cannot separate. We especially in North America concept, right? We immediately try to separate those things. We cannot separate. But for the sake of understanding, let me separate. We are humans. Under that, we're male, female. Like Samuel said, there's a Trinity model after. And then after that, we are there's male individuals, there are female individuals, right? And that reflects that Trinity that Samuel's talking about, right? The unity, diversity, as we are created male, female, we are community, we are persons, as my old professor James used to say. We are persons, we live with others in community, and we are individuals after that too, right? We are, God creates us. So this whole idea of being human first, and that's our common ground. And together with that, or secondary to that, we are male, female. And that's where most of the problems to me are not in the unity part. Most of the problems to me are in the diversity part. As Daryl says, we equal in being, diverse in function, right? Most of the problems that we have with that, with machismo and radical feminism, is not the unity part. Is, for me, it's a lot in the diverse part, because then you start to talk about different roles and functions, and but we are a reflection of the Trinity. We're humans. We are male, female as humans. We are individuals, individual males, individual females. So diversity and unity. And we in Christianity, we talk about that as a mystery, the mystery of the Trinity. So there's so much there that we still cannot understand and cannot see, right?
Well, and the huge mental, psychological challenge and even emotional challenge is how can things be different and equal?
Yeah.
And I thought that was a great point. You know, as soon as something's different, well, then one has to be better than the other. You can't have different and equal. It's just impossible.
That's another subject that really impacted me.
But that
the
was
radical
the
middle.
Yeah, you know, that's the Trinity. We have God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. They're different, but they're equal. How is that?
How do you explain that?
But
right?
that's reality. That's the foundation of reality. That's not just an add-on. So if we build from that foundation, then we have to figure out how can you be different from me and yet we're equal.
And do you know what? I think I have been saying this a lot of this, like not only related to this subject, but to so many things. I think God is calling me to live in the tension these days, like what Francis Schaeffer talks about, the radical middle, right?
Yeah.
With this whole thing of COVID and pandemic, God is calling us to live in the tension there. He's not never going to allow us to be comfortable on one side or on the other side. We're going to have to live with this tension. The Trinity is a mystery. We cannot explain. We can compare, right, to water or all the comparison to
boiled egg, you know.
Yeah, that's just, we can compare with those images, those forms that understand help us, right? But it's
a mystery.
Right? So we live in that tension. I think we are called to live in that tension and flourish in that tension. Right?
Yeah. Jitu, anything to add to this?
Yeah, I think it's going back to what you say in the beginning, is the idea can have consequences, no? And as you say, the culture that is based on the idea, the belief system, whatever the belief system, where I grew up in India, when I moved to Europe, in Spain, was macho iberico, no? And the man, the Spanish man, where here in Europe or in Spain, we do have problem of domestic violence a lot, especially after as soon as the lockdown is over, the cases of domestic violence have gone up. So when I am in India, I don't look at Europe that things like the domestic violence can happen here. But then you look around and you just go to the roots, that the idea, what you believe about who man is, who woman is, that has the consequences. You go to India, the base root, we leave out our religion, we leave out our culture. Basically, we take shower because it's good. It's good in a sense that you purify your body. That's the concept we have. We take shower. Whereas here you take shower because that's good for you. But no, we have religious connection to what we do, the actions. How we treat our woman in India, it goes in the scriptures there. Again, sadly, I'm saying it is in all culture, all belief system. You say in India, the culture is so dominant that you would see the followers of Christianity or Islam, they're treating the woman same as the dominant Indian culture. Then when I started studying in the university, the social work, that's where I realized many of the things that we do or believe about man and woman, it has the roots in the belief system. I won't go deeper in that, but then coming back to the Trinity, where you see the unity and the diversity, but there is, you see the communion, the honor, the respect, and the goodness that flows in there. It's completely different model than any other belief system. You see, the Trinity is a model where honor, respect, communion, communication, diversity, but still the unity. So that's the beauty of the Trinity. And when we believe in that concept, it will create a culture that will be the culture of honor. So again, I think that the beauty of Trinity is it creates the culture of honor, irrespective of man or woman.
Yeah, we probably tackled the most difficult concept in the entire course, I think. So sorry about that, audience and you guys. But anyway,
brought that up.
yeah, it's the most subjective, whatever. But anyway, thanks, man. Actually, it's your fault, Samuel. You brought it up. What's another idea? We've only got like 12 minutes left. What's another idea that struck you from the grand design training that paradigm shaking?
Radical middle. That was mind-blowing.
Help us out.
Okay. Because as we grow up, we tend to think one way or the other. We always have two different sides to choose. It's politically, theology. We always have two sides to choose from. And if you don't choose, you have to choose. That's what I'm saying. And then Darryl brought up this concept that he learned from Francis Schaeffer that Nelson just mentioned, that and he applied to, that's the radical middle. And you see this illustrated throughout the Bible, in many cases, that it talks about the narrow way, talks about Jesus being the cornerstone, the stone that holds everything in the middle, and right and left. And the idea that we should live in the tension in the middle, the perfect balance is the biblical perspective, the biblical worldview, the biblical principles and values that we should walk on. And we don't have to choose one way or the other, but we should live in the tension of obeying God's principles, following Jesus. That's the biblical way. And we often fall in one side or the other, but the biblical proposal is that we walk narrow in the tension of the Jesus way. Following Jesus. I don't know if it's clear enough, but it's quite complex to explain. And I don't think my role is to explain what it is. But this really impacted my life when he applied that to being a woman and a man, that a woman shouldn't be crushed or shouldn't go to the other side of trying to take care of men's role. You know what I'm saying?
It's like
we always see that in one side she's crushed because in some cultures, the other side, in a lot of cultures, she wants to be
the crusher.
A crusher. So and if you think about the concept, you're gonna realize and learn all the different ways and life moments that we have to think that way, situations, ideas, that applying this concept, biblical concept, it's living in the tension.
All right.
Not choosing one side.
All right, we got a few minutes left. So
it sounded a bit complicated.
No, thank you very much. We got a few minutes left, and I'm gonna Jitu, what's the one point you want to share, and then Nelson, one point.
yeah, the main point, and I think people, those who are listening us or watching us, they should look forward. What blown me up after hearing Daro on worldview, the second thing that I'm still trying to learn from that, the mother heart of God. That part of it is amazing. That's the beauty. What I never heard that. What Daro taught on the mother heart of God, that His nurturing, His protection. Probably we won't have time to talk about it, but I would, yeah, that's something that I'm allowing this. Afterwards we're running 2 deep discipleship courses. And so far, we had only the teaching on Father Heart of God, but on my courses, we said we're going to teach on Mother Heart of God because this has to come. And I'm making it a point to do the Bible studies or wherever we are to see how we can, because of course it can be controversial when you bring it to the body of Christ if you're not well prepared for that. So I'm taking it slowly. But the
Jitu,
yeah.
Have you seen Samuel's video on the maternal heart of God?
Yes, that's beautiful. Yeah.
All right, if you want to get that translated into Hindi or something, or it's going into Spanish soon. But anyway, I would encourage our audience, and Sean, maybe you can post the link to this, is that little video that Samuel developed, 4 minutes on the mother heart of God, the maternal heart of God.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's a tough subject too, because we've actually had pushback on that video. Sorry, Samuel. But it's like, whoa, where's the father? And no, he's the father, but he has a maternal heart, and that's what's reflected. Anyway, great, thanks, good point, excellent. So
the Trinity has a maternal heart.
The Trinity has a maternal heart and a father heart.
Yeah.
Nelson, what struck you?
I think, there's so many things, and of course we don't have the time, but this one concept, idea that both male and female are creating God's image. It takes both masculine and feminine to fully reflect God's nature. That is mind-blowing to me, right?
Yeah.
And as we talk about machismo today in this live, that's when you go back in machismo, we reduce women to being created less than being created in God's image. And in that sense, as Jitu, and a little bit of what Jitu said, we rob women and ourselves and our nations of the irreplaceable agency of female created in God's image. Again, we're not objects, we're not subjects as humans, we are created in God's image to be agents. And so it robs our marriages, our children, our families, our communities, our societies from the richness and the purpose of female, because there's purpose in that too, right? Of female, and thus it reduces reality, right? Creating one of the things, creating poverty. There talks about this as one of the lies that creates poverty, right? So we rob ourselves, rob women, ourselves, our societies, and it creates poverty that goes from the inside all the way to external aspects, including the economic reality of poverty. And by the way, in machismo, men is also reduced, not only women is reduced, it falls short of God's original design for men.
Absolutely. Wow. I was thinking, what's the point that struck me? And I think about that way at the beginning, he's talking about, he's quoting Sigourney, the woman, and she talks about that pillar. If you look at culture as the pillar that holds up the world, the economy and culture and family environment, and you have this strong brute column, and then at the top you have this ornamental design that actually gives beauty to the entire building and actually holds up the roof of the building and expresses a whole nother level of beauty and function. And just comparing that with the male and the female, and how it's the same idea of how the maternal, now I'm forgetting the word, paternal and maternal add to the life we live. And both are so important.
The richness of the two together, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, well, guys, like I said, the training comes out on Monday. You will find that it has 8 core. We took the 24 lessons and we identified the 8 core lessons where Daryl does a good job of summarizing the different themes, and then going deeper lessons are added to that. And so those are optional but highly encouraged. We've got the maternal Heart of God video that Samuel has produced, and apparently you've got another on the way. Samuel, is that correct? Can you tell us about that?
We are working with God and Daryl on producing another one, which is gonna be God grand design for men and women. So it's gonna be powerful, a lot of work to put the ideas together to convey in one video, a 4-minute video. And yeah, we are very excited.
You're excellent, Samuel. You do a really great job.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got translations underway for that maternal heart video in 4 languages now, so it's exciting to
Portuguese
see that.
is almost done.
Okay. Spanish is being audio voiceovered right now. So anyway, looking forward, what are you working on, Nelson and Jitu? In terms of this, how are you promoting the grand design in your work and in the things you're doing?
As I said, that the grand design and the work, before in our trainings, we never had a teaching on mother heart, always had a father heart of God. So the training that I lead, we make sure that we add to that. So in fact, Daro challenged me because I was thinking, okay, I will invite Ana Santos to teach on mother heart. Daro said, why don't you as a man do that? So that was for me, like, that's true. And so me in my team, the people who came, Alejandra and Benjamin, a couple. Alejandra is also prepared and did some presentations. So we worked together to speak on the DTSs that are coming up. And then in the church where I'm helping, they are asking me to do the Bible studies on some topic, and I'm thinking to take it there also in a small group of Bible study. Because I don't feel prepared as Daro to respond the deeper theological questions on that. So I will go slow. So where my sphere, where I have influence, I'm applying that. And of course, my family with my wife and my family, my sisters. Yeah. So the application is on. So, but on the training side, these are the things I'm doing. Yeah.
Nelson?
Well, we start with my role as a husband. I'm trying to be a loving and self-sacrificing, those qualities of Christ as expressed Christ in the church, right? Loving and self-sacrifice. How does that look like for me as a husband? For my kids, teaching and seeking to show my daughter, my sons, what a male figure is supposed to be, a pale vision of what that is, but there is truth also that we can look. And how to be a Mordecai, there was how to be a Mordecai to raise Esthers for the transformation of the entire nations, actually. We developed schools that also equip women as mothers, wives, nurturers of nations, different schools, training for different ages, that brings this issue of identity, sexuality, and brings that to the foundation of the training. And so different ways that we have been working with this.
Wow, thank you. Well, I want to thank each of you for being with us today. And Jitu, it was so great to meet you in Spain here 2 years ago and to just get to know you briefly and to watch you work. So that's really exciting. And Samuel, to work with you on some projects has been a thrill, a total thrill. And I love to see your creative gifts being employed in this way. And it's so impactful. And Nelson, you and Lisa, you're so pillars. So keep going forward. So let me pray for you briefly and we'll close. Father, thank you so much for these brothers of mine. And I ask that you would help their influence increase, that you would expand their tent, not for their glory, but for your glory, that you would expand their influence for the goodness and truth and beauty of the kingdom, that your name would be lifted up. And Father, that men and women would find healing and truth through your word about God's grand design for men and women, and how wonderful that is, and empowering it is, and freeing it is, and how it leads to flourishing for our lives. And give us the grace and the strength and the wisdom to live it. Our worldviews are so impacted by Satan, frankly. And we need to see the world and ourselves and our wives and women through your eyes. So help us do that. We pray that in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dwight.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Hi, friends. I wanted to share with you a few ways that the Disciple Nations Alliance can help you, your church, and your ministry be better equipped with the biblical worldview so that you can share it, disciple others in it, and advance the truth, beauty, and goodness of the kingdom of God in your communities and nations. First, I want to encourage you to visit our website, disciplenations.org. It's loaded with resources for you. We have ebooks, we have curriculum, we have video, we have audio, and we have our blog that's updated regularly. So check that out. Many of those resources are available to you for free. We hope that they're a blessing to you. Our flagship resource is called Coram Deo. It's a free online biblical worldview school. It helps you understand what worldview is, what the biblical worldview is, and how to apply it to every area of your life. The English version of Coram Deo is now rebranded as the Kingdomizer Training Program. It's on a newer, more user-friendly platform, and we hope that it serves you well in your journey to understand and apply a biblical worldview. Lastly, I want to encourage you that if English is not your native language and you want to connect with somebody perhaps close to you geographically, or just to go through the DNA resources in your native language, we have network development coordinators all around the globe. They're amazing people that want to connect with you and help you out. So reach out to us at info@disciplenations.org or message us here, and we will put you in touch with the network development coordinator in your language group. Lastly, if you're watching this on YouTube, please be sure to click the subscribe button, like the video, and hit that bell so that you're notified when new content comes out. Thanks so much, and God bless.